Argentina has defaulted on its debt 9 separate times since gaining independence. 9, and somehow this same country keeps getting invited right back to the negotiating table by the same category of lenders who got burned before. That alone should sound impossible. So today, we're opening the case on how a country goes broke this many times and still keeps functioning as a modern economy. Let's build the timeline first, because the pattern matters more than any single date. Major defaults in 1890, 1951, 1956, 1982, 1989, 2001, 2014, 2020, and technically again in early forms through the 2000s as debt restructuring dragged on. The 2001 collapse alone wiped out roughly 75% of the peso's value against the dollar within weeks, froze bank accounts, and triggered riots that brought down 4 presidents in under 2 weeks. Here's what most people picture when they hear national default: total, permanent collapse. A country locked out of the world economy forever. That's not what happens in Argentina, and understanding why is the actual mechanism worth studying. It starts with inflation. Argentina has spent decades printing money to cover government spending it can't otherwise afford through taxes or sustainable borrowing. That devalues the currency so fast that ordinary Argentinians have learned, almost as a survival instinct, to convert their pesos into dollars the moment they're paid, just to protect their savings from losing meaningful value by the following weekend. Then comes the default itself. When the debt becomes mathematically impossible to repay, Argentina simply doesn't. Instead of full collapse, the government renegotiates with creditors, offers new bonds worth a fraction of the old ones, and effectively hits a reset button. Most countries never get to use twice, let alone 9 times. Now, here's the second layer people usually miss. Why do lenders keep coming back after being burned this many times? Because Argentina sits on resources the world still genuinely wants. Grain that feeds a meaningful share of global livestock, beef exports, and more recently, some of the largest lithium reserves on Earth, critical for battery production. Lenders keep betting that this time, the resource wealth will finally cover the bill long term. It rarely fully does, but the bet keeps getting made anyway because the alternative, writing Argentina off entirely, means losing access to those resources completely. A fair skeptic might say, okay, but Argentina is a mid-sized economy with a long specific history of instability. The United States has never defaulted, has the world's reserve currency, and operates at a completely different scale. That's a fair point, and it's exactly where this case gets uncomfortable rather than dismissible. The US isn't printing money to cover a currency collapse the way Argentina does, but the underlying habit, borrowing against future growth that may not materialize, rolling maturing debt into new debt instead of ever fully resolving it, letting the total debt load grow faster than the economy generating the tax revenue to service it, is the same basic instinct, just operating at a scale the world has genuinely never tested before, because no country in history has carried this much debt while also holding the global reserve currency everyone else depends on. Argentina is what happens when that trust runs out on a mid-sized economy that lenders can afford to write off if needed. Nobody actually knows what it looks like on an economy the size of the United States because it has never happened. That gap between "we don't fully know" and "it definitely can't happen here" is exactly where I think more attention is genuinely warranted. So here's the case file summary. Argentina survives 9 defaults because the world keeps betting on its resources, and because, frankly, the global economy can absorb an Argentina-sized shock. The real question this case raises isn't whether America is about to default. It's whether the same borrowing instinct, left unchecked for long enough, eventually forces a reckoning regardless of a country's size.